In Stryker, Ohio for the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. It's stop number 1 of the hometown tour with Ohio Soybean. The Executive Director of the Ohio Soybean Council and Ohio Soybean Association, Kirk Merritt, joins me, along with the one hosting us today, Rusty Goebel. And before we get into the hometown tour and talk about what we're doing here on the farm, kind of tell me about your farm and how the growing season's gone so far, Rusty.
Yeah, my son and I, we farm in 3 counties right here, close 4 counties, I guess. We raise soybeans, corn, and wheat, and we also feed hogs and cattle. We started out early with those nice, good temperatures, got cold for about a month, struggled getting everything planted. Then part of our farms were very, very dry. Now the last while we've caught up and we've been getting some pretty good moisture and things are looking better.
Kirk, the first time for an event like this across the state, we have several stops throughout this month, so make sure and check out soyohio.org to find out all the dates and the stops. But really a chance for the association and the council to share the things you're doing with your members and hopefully gain more members in the process.
Exactly. It's a great opportunity for us to talk to our members, to talk to farmers who are already paying the checkoff, might already be members of our association and the other organizations, but maybe they aren't. And this is an opportunity for us to connect with them. And we've talked about everything today, from Farm Bill to H2 Ohio to autonomous tractors and everything in between.
Yeah, Rusty, you're part of the association side, so you travel to Washington quite a bit and talk with lawmakers about what's important for Ohio soybean, but Ohio agriculture as a whole. And as we talked about last week on the podcast, there's Farm Bill that's due by the end of September. As you talk with lawmakers, what are kind of some of the vibes you're getting about the Farm Bill and whether it's going to be passed in time or not?
We've been talking about the Farm Bill with the crop insurance and things like that, the safety net we have and conservation. The word that we're getting, they're hoping by the end of the year. I'm not too positive it's going to make it by the end of the year. They've got a lot of catching up to get it passed this year. Also,
Kirk, talking about things through the council and you know, you talk about looking into the future. The council does that very well, looking about ways to grow markets, ways to produce more products that are made of soy, ways to bring younger people into agriculture. That's something that the council's very good at and what those checkoff dollars are made for.
Exactly. We've been very fortunate, Ty, in Ohio to have a board. All of our board members are farmers. They make the decisions on how to invest the checkoff, and they have been very forward-thinking and future-oriented with their investments of the checkoff. So, as you say, we've really tried to be a leader in finding new uses for soy, creating new demand. We're always looking for new demand for our crop. We've tried to lead in terms of export markets and biofuels and promoting soy diesel. And also, as you say, trying to get the next generation excited about agriculture through education around ag and science and soybeans.
GrowNextGen is one of the programs we're talking about when it comes to educating young kids in the classroom, and we're going to have one of the teachers that has GrowNextGen curriculum in her class coming up a little bit later on in the podcast. But as we talk about the future, happening behind us right now, an autonomous tractor, Dr. Scott Shear with Ohio State here, kind of showing people what the future of agriculture might look like. Oh yeah, this is exciting to see an autonomous tractor. They've got it hooked up. They're running it from their iPad. It's the future for sure. You know, it's not tomorrow, but you know, down the road, this is something that's going to be helpful to farmers. Well, Rusty, automation in agriculture is nothing new. You work in the hog business, and there's quite a bit of automation in your barns right now.
Well, most of the barns are run all climate controlled, you know, with computers telling us when to open the fans or turn the fans on, open the curtains, when they're fed, when they're watered and everything. So no, it's all automated. Labor is our big issue on the agriculture. Everybody's have, you know, problem with labor. The tractor thing is going to be a very big deal. When we can't find labor 24 hours a day, you can probably operate them. It's going to be a welcome need. What we really need it to come on.
Kirk and I were talking as this tractor was rolling, and I guess one of the questions I have for the actual farmer is, that's kind of the fun part of farming, right? Getting in the cab and doing the farming, but now having a robot do it for you, kind of take the fun out of it?
Oh, I think it does. Some of us older people, you know, we like running tractors, you know, but we don't drive them hardly anymore. And so that was always, when I was a kid, we liked getting out there to driving. But what you takes the stress away from, so much takes the stress away. Even just the auto steer takes the stress away, and you can work an extra hour every day and more efficient. The computer is just so much more efficient than what we physically can be.
Kirk, it was a day full of information and technology and forward thinking with Ohio Soybean Council and Ohio Soybean Association. I mentioned there are more coming out throughout the month. How can we find out more about those upcoming stops?
Go to soyohio.org. We have the hometown tour on the website, the schedule. We have 3 more scheduled. We're looking to schedule more beyond that, but 3 more scheduled yet this month.
Kirk Merritt, he is Executive Director of the Ohio Soybean Council and Ohio Soybean Association. Rusty Goebel here in Stryker. Is this Williams County?
This is Williams County,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, our host today for the hometown tour, the very first stop of its kind here in the month of August. We'll talk to that teacher that has the GrowNextGen curriculum coming up after this here on the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast.
Find out how nationwide agribusiness can help you grow your business. Get to know the people with the experience and knowledge to help you. Whether you are looking to protect your farm or ranch from the ground up, or need someone who understands your changing commercial ag needs. Find out how to better manage the risks of your ag business, or how quickly you can get back to business. Learn how you can protect your next with Nationwide on your side.
Here in our state, there's an energy at work, a drive to help people live healthier lives with confidence. But it can't be done alone. That's why our healthcare, business, and community leaders have joined together to help people here feel more empowered by their healthcare, leading to improved long-term health and savings. A health plan for small businesses in the agricultural industry was created by the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation. It provides members the tools, resources, and financial protection to feel confident in their healthcare decisions. By sharing responsibilities, we help build healthier employees and communities, driving down costs, connecting members digitally to Anthem's diverse network of local resources, participating in health literacy, easing administrative burdens. Joining the plan means you're part of making healthcare work better, giving people the confidence to make anything possible. To learn more about how the plan can work for your business, visit our website or call your broker or Anthem sales representative.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. GrowNextGen was launched in 2014 with funding from the Ohio Soybean Council and Ohio Soybean Farmers. The program provides teachers with free, high-quality STEM units and lessons that bring agriculture principles and practices into the science classroom. Joining us this week on the podcast, one of the teachers using GrowNextGen, Jamie Brown, teaches 6th grade at Miami East Junior High. Jamie, great to have you on the podcast.
Great to be here, Ty. Thanks.
So for those who don't know, what is NextGen and how did you first hear about it?
So GrowNextGen is a wealth of resources available through Ohio Soybean Council. So checkoff dollars from Ohio soybean farmers provides the funding. Basically, the goal with this is to invest in the future of the soybean industry. In the next 15 years, the kids sitting in our classrooms are the future of the soybean industry. And so if we can get them interested in it, if we can get them excited about it, that's kind of the goal of GrowNextGen. So they offer everything from workshops to curriculum, to externship experiences with different ag companies, and so much more, virtual field trips. And I actually first heard about this program from a friend who works for Pioneer Seed. She happened to see somebody share it on Facebook, and she's like, hey, I think you're going to be really interested in this. And just kind of looking at what they were doing, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. So I drove up to Findlay for my first workshop, and it was so much different than anything I'd ever experienced professional development wise as a teacher. And just from that, I was like instantly hooked of, okay, I'm all in on what they're doing and taking it back to my classroom.
I'm really curious because I've been in GrowNextGen classrooms in Cleveland and in Dayton. You're in a relatively rural area there. How much would you say your students know about agriculture?
Yeah, so we are pretty rural. We always joke we're like the 2-stop sign town. So I came into my classroom with some pretty heavy assumptions that I guess my students would know a lot of what's happening around them. And imagine my surprise when we were having the like, here's where cheeseburgers come from conversation. So I felt like they lacked a lot of the basic knowledge of just like, what are they doing around me? So I would say a good portion of my students do still live on the farm. They're involved in programs like 4-H. But a lot of them are removed from the farm by many generations. And so I think with that has come a lot of myth busting has almost kind of been my role with this. So a lot of misconceptions. And from that, we just kind of start with the basics, like what are they even growing out there? Can I go out and just eat that cob of corn? And if I can't eat it, why are they growing it? Even though like they see a lot of like plain sprayers. And so they're like, are they just spraying chemicals everywhere? Or like, my mom says I shouldn't eat GMOs. What are GMOs? So I think more than you would think that I have to kind of go through and teach, but it's awesome to kind of see them um, bust those myths, I guess, or become more informed about agriculture.
Yeah, that education, that general basic information is very important. But is there a deeper level you go when it comes to maybe career development or talking about future jobs and possibilities in agriculture in every way, shape, or form?
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what I try to connect things to because I think students come in and they're like, I don't want to be a farmer. And getting them to realize, like, well, you love to program video games, and there are people who are programming things to fly drone paths or autonomous tractors, and getting them to realize there's so much more. Like, we need chemists and we need food scientists and we need engineers and programmers. So, being able to kind of tie that into each piece or part to get interested in careers.
Bring us into your classroom. What is one example of a curriculum that you've used through GrowNextGen? Kind of gets to the no pun intended, the granular level.
So my favorite one I probably did was last spring. I had gotten 5 drones for my classroom. So we started kind of talking about, what are things that affect plants, whether they're good, bad, natural effects, human or man-made effects. And we started talking about if I'm a farmer, how do I keep track of everything that happens in my field? And they're like, well, you just walk out there. Like, don't you just kind of walk through your field? And so I was like, okay, come to the window and you're going to tell me that you're going to walk all these fields just right here. They're like, oh, well, maybe we could fly an airplane. Like, okay, are you going to buy an airplane to fly around your farm? And finally, they kind of settled on drones. And from there, the Grow Next Gen lesson kind of focuses on, okay, how do drones work? So the physics behind it. And then kind of pulling in how do they work in agriculture? So are we surveying fields? Are we spraying fields? And then they got the chance to get familiar with our classroom drones and ended up having a challenge. So they had kind of like a simulated path or simulated field they had to fly a path through. They had to avoid some things. So, like thinking about, I don't want to spray the neighbor's honeybees, or I can't fly so close to a school. And it was funny because I had it set up in a different room. I had told them, like, we're going to go to this room, you're going to program this flight path. And we go in there and they're like, oh, this is going to be so easy. Like, I just need to program, I need to go left, right, up, down. And the first group did it, and everyone was like, oh, no, like, this is not nearly as easy as I thought. So it was a good challenge, a lot of grit, a lot of perseverance. But even just the drive, like students were just excited. I had kids like, can I come in during recess and like reprogram my drone and fly? So I think that's probably one of my favorite lessons that I've done with them. And getting them to just kind of see you can be interested in something outside of ag that can connect to ag. So that would probably be my favorite one that I've done.
Certainly helpful that it's interactive and hands-on. GrowNextGen, of course, checkoff funded, meaning it's ultimately funded with farmer money. Why is a program like this a good investment of those checkoff dollars?
So I think the goal of those checkoff dollars is really to kind of like drive innovation, to educate just for that future of the soybean industry. And like, what better way to do that than to invest in the future workforce? I think this program really gets students thinking about the role they can play career wise, like you mentioned, but I also think it just makes them better consumers. Like I said, that myth busting of like things I see on TikTok. Well, on TikTok, they say this is bad, or antibiotics in meat, or different things that they just don't know. And so, whether they choose to take a career in agriculture or not, I think it makes them better consumers, better conservationists, realizing there's only so much land and there's only so much soil. And so, I think that investment in this program makes people better understand farmers and what they're doing in their fields.
As you and I visit, you're getting ready for another school season there at Miami East Junior High in your sixth grade class. Teachers all over the state preparing to teach multiple ages. So, how can Grow Next Gen materials be adapted to suit every age group?
So every GrowNextGen material has a unit for the most part, and units there's multiple different parts or pieces. So in 6th grade, a lot of mine are the lower pieces of some of that. So, for example, we'll do soil testing and we'll test for nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium. And my students are just starting with the periodic table. I'm like, what are those? Why do we need those? But then, if you're in high school, there's the ability in those units to take things to the next level. So, things like nitrogen cycle and nitrogen fixation and what part soybeans play in that. But I think there's also a variety of those career videos. There's a virtual field trip. So if you're an elementary teacher, you can take your students along with planting in a field, and it's a little bit more elementary level. Whereas the high school level, you can take them also planting or harvesting. So there's just a variety of resources, everything from like the Soy McCoy coloring book to introduce elementary students to how do we make ink out of soy. So I think just that variety of resources that are there to either extend things or provide a launching point to kind of tie into something else.
We're going to put a link to GrowNextGen on the podcast link here at ohiofarmbureau.org if you want to click on it and find out more. As Jamie Brown did, she teaches 6th grade at Miami East Junior High. Mrs. Brown, thank you so much for the information and have a great school year.
Thank you.